Afternoon, everyone.
Hello, and welcome to the EDF Business Electricity Buyer's Guide webinar. My name is Linnea Marin. I'm a Senior Marketing Exec at EDF, and joining me today we have John Perks, Head of Mid-Market. So just some quick housekeeping before we get started. The webinar is going to be recorded today, and we'll make this available on the Talk Power section of our website for anyone that wants to re-watch or share with a colleague. We'll also be running an anonymous Q&A at the end of the session to try and cover off any questions you might have. So the purpose of today's webinar is to briefly cover recent developments in the energy industry, outlining some of the risks that business customers and suppliers face, and to present some options for business customers to consider for the next business electricity contract. So John, handing over to you, can you provide us with a quick introduction and briefly bring everyone up to speed with what has been happening in the energy markets?
Thanks, Linnea. Yeah, great to be with you today. I'm just wondering if we're going to set a new record for number of attendees at one of our EDF webinars as people are joining us as we speak. I'm John Perks. You may have heard from me before. I'm the head of mid-market here at EDF, and I'm happy to be joining you today to try and help our business customers and channel partners understand some of the events that are going on in the industry at the moment, and how collectively we're going to navigate these next couple of months ahead of the winter. My colleague James Chaplin will be running another one of his quarterly power market updates next week. I think that's next Wednesday, isn't it, Linnea?
Yeah.
So tune in for that. He's going to go through what's been going on in the markets in a lot more detail, along with some of the risks and potential uncertainty out into the future. But I can give you a brief summary of what's been happening, and maybe if we could move on to the next slide. So if we go back to sort of tail end of 2020 and early part of 2021, we've seen this sustained period of electricity prices increasing, initially quite gradually in the early part of 2021, linked to a recovery of sort of the global economy after the pandemic, coinciding with some lower output from some of our sort of renewable generation. We had some low wind, and we had to use gas to replace that, and also quite a long winter that ran on into 2021, longer than it would typically do. So whilst the price rises were initially quite gradual, there was a series of events that really sort of shocked the market in September of last year, and caused a significant amount of market disruption linked to high prices. I think we'll remember it started to get quite a lot of coverage in the media with high energy prices, the impacts that was having on residential suppliers as well. Getting through that September period, we've subsequently faced a kind of constant period of volatility, linked to some geopolitical unrest in the run-up to Christmas, with uncertainty around the kind of Eastern European sort of conflict, and then subsequently with Russia's invasion of Ukraine and the sanctions applied to Russia and the curtailment of gas supplies into Europe. These last couple of weeks have been no exception to the volatility. We've seen further cuts in gas supply to Europe, and that's really driven energy prices to new record highs. It's been a very volatile period, and that appears to be here to stay for the foreseeable.
Yeah, and the energy markets have been in the news a lot recently, and we're seeing announcements of potential increases to the domestic price cap. How do we see this affecting business customers?
Yeah, so the energy price cap is only applicable to domestic consumers, and it's only applicable to those domestic consumers who've not entered into a fixed term contract with their energy supplier. So they're supplied on the standard variable tariff, and it's designed to cap the amount that domestic energy suppliers can charge their customers who haven't signed a fixed term contract. Now, due to the dynamic nature of the energy markets and the methodology that Ofgem used to set the cap, we have seen recent examples where the standard variable tariff has been significantly cheaper than fixed term contract offers that suppliers can put out to market. So there's no price cap for business customers though. So any business that's not in a fixed term contract is going to be exposed to out of contract rates that in all likelihood are going to be higher than suppliers' fixed term contract options.
Okay, so why are these out of contract rates so much higher than contracted rates for businesses?
So businesses who are no longer in a fixed term contract and have moved on to a supplier's out of contract or extended supply rates, they can switch supplier at any time, so long as there's no debt owing to the supplier. Now, that determining how much energy suppliers have to buy for those customers is really difficult because you don't have any certainty about how long they'll be supplied by you. So that creates quite a lot of risk. If you end up buying too much and selling it back, that can cause some big kind of sort of costs to suppliers. So that's why out of contract prices are traditionally higher than fixed term contracts. Energy suppliers generally prefer the stability and security of having their customers in a fixed term contract.
Okay. So, looking at prices for the upcoming winter period, how do these compare with prices looking further out into the future?
Yeah, if we could move to the next slide, thank you. So currently the electricity market is in something that's called backwardation. That means that the price of the commodity in the near term, or the prompt, is significantly higher than the price out into the future, to the forward curve. We are seeing, exceptionally high prices for the remainder of this summer and the upcoming winter season. But you'll notice here on the chart that I'm showing the prices for next summer and winter are a step below in 2023 and a step further below that in 2024.
So, what does that mean for fixed price contracts that businesses might be considering?
So, for those businesses that are entering into fixed price contracts, the conventional product range offers customers a consistent unit rate and standing charge for the duration of the contract. There are some exceptions to this, but generally customers pay the same rates across the contract period. Now, with the market in backwardation, if we're only considering energy costs here, it means the longer the contract, the lower the unit rate that customers will pay should become. So if a business is just signing up for the near term or for the upcoming winter, it's likely they'll be paying a very high unit rate compared to the unit rate they would be paying for a longer duration, say, for example, a 2-year contract.
So would it be logical for businesses to sign up for as long as possible then to secure the cheapest possible rate?
It's a good question. So that all depends on whether you believe the prices in the future will rise or fall. Now, by securing a 2-year contract today, you're locking in those costs for that full 2-year period. If you just took a 6-month deal now and waited until next year to secure your next contract and the market price for summer 23 and beyond has fallen, yeah, you could ultimately end up saving money over a comparable contract. However, you haven't had the advantage of kind of blending those high winter prices into your longer term contract, so you'll be paying more for the winter months. And as we know, prices can go up as well as go down. So it could end up, if you do take a short-term contract, the prices go up in the meantime and you end up ultimately paying more across the comparable period.
Okay, so what is the right decision for businesses to take, short-term or long-term?
So to answer that, we'd need to have a crystal ball and know what power price is going to do into the future. And we simply don't know that. At the moment, the forward price is built off a set of fundamentals that ultimately could change quite fundamentally over these next few weeks and months. Think around the things that are driving the price at the moment. We've got the conflict in Ukraine. We've got the sanctions being applied to energy supplies. The weather, is it going to be as cold a winter as we're anticipating? Could it be colder? Could it be milder? Will we have any further interruptions to other forms of generation? Is it going to be as windy as we anticipate? So all of these elements can impact the energy price. And can have a material impact on the future cost. So my advice when assessing options for different contract durations is to really consider whether a further increase in costs is something that your business can tolerate. If ultimately signing a longer duration contract right now gets those rates down to an affordable level, then at least you can set budgets and plan with a degree of certainty. Now, short-term contracts do provide some hope that a cheaper deal could be achieved overall. but you've got to weather the storm of the winter that's coming up. And ultimately, if prices in the future do go up, you could end up paying more.
Okay, thank you. So we understand that some suppliers aren't currently offering longer term contracts. Why is that?
So at EDF we are. So I'm not 100% sure why other suppliers might not be doing that, but I can maybe have a guess as to why that might be the case. I think so. Firstly, longer term contracts will create cash flow issues for energy suppliers. With the market in backwardation, energy suppliers still have to pay those high costs for energy across the course of the balance of this summer and winter, and in effect, suppliers will lose money in the early part of those longer duration contracts. It's all made back in the latter part of the contract, but you deal with that immediate sort of cash flow constraint. A related consideration would then be around the confidence suppliers have that the business will be still on supply and in a contract and paying their invoices towards that latter part of the contract period, the profitable part of the contract. So there's quite a big degree of focus around credit assessments at the moment. I also want to mention a fair degree of uncertainty around the non-energy cost landscape. We've talked a lot about energy costs, but we continue to see quite a lot of reform and changes in non-energy costs as well. And there's quite a high degree of uncertainty beyond April 2025 at the moment. Ofgem have recently announced further reforms to distribution and transmission costs that they're consulting industry on at the moment, and they could take effect from April 25. So that really does present a risk that pricing beyond April 25 on a fixed term basis could result in sort of significant impacts if those reforms do take effect.
Okay, thank you. And with that in mind, what are the fixed contract options that EDF are currently offering?
Yeah, I think we've got a slide on that as well. That's just coming up. So we're pretty much in BAU mode at the moment. We will got our credit risk team, so we will still do credit assessments for our business customers that are looking to enter into a contract, and that may dictate durations that we can offer. But for our sort of broad fixed price product range, we offer premium fixed, standard fixed, and pass through, and descriptions of them here. Our standard fixed contract is available for normal periods out to the end of September 2026. We have slightly reduced the end date of our premium fixed peace of mind product to the end of March 2025, and that's really down to the uncertainty for distribution and transmission costs beyond April 25.
Yeah, so you've got standard fixed, premium fixed. Surely a fixed price contract is a fixed price contract. Why is there a difference?
Yeah, okay. It's a good question. So business customers, our experience indicates that business customers typically want price certainty. When they sign a fixed price contract, they want the certainty to know the price they're going to be paying across that contract term without any surprises. That's why we've offered our peace of mind product to the market for many years now, and have never exposed our customers to any increases. That requires us as a business to have really a good grasp on non-energy costs and how those forecast changes might or how do we sort of set our forecast correctly. So we invest a lot in understanding the changing landscape of non-energy costs, both in terms of forecasting, but also in terms of regulatory change as well. So we feel confident that we can offer a contract without any sort of reopeners. Some other suppliers are sort of maybe less confident in their forecasts, and as a result, we'll offer what we call a standard fixed equivalent, and that does contain clauses that allow prices to be revised if the forecasts are ultimately proved to be incorrect. And we did recognise that there's some businesses that really want to sign the energy part of their contract out, as mentioned earlier, out to September 2026. So we did introduce a standard fixed equivalent. It's offered for longer term. It does, similar to other suppliers' offers, does have the option to revise the price if non-energy costs change dramatically, and it will be have a slightly cheaper headline price versus our premium fixed option. So that's the reason why there's a slightly different description for the two fixed price product options that we have. And then we have pass through as well, which fixes energy but passes through all non-energy costs to the customer at the true outturn value, and that's also available out until September 2026.
Thanks, John. So would you say that the non-energy costs are the main area of uncertainty here?
I think consumption is also a consideration following COVID and the pandemic, where we saw a lot of businesses change their consumption levels. It's been quite tricky for suppliers to accurately forecast how much energy to purchase for their customers. If you buy too much, you risk having to sell that back for a loss if the power price drops dramatically. If you don't buy enough and the power price goes up, you risk having to pay those higher prices for energy that you've already agreed a price with your customer for. So really important to forecast accurately. That's why many suppliers will include volume tolerance provisions in their fixed price contracts, often referred to as take or pay, and there'll be contractual provisions in place that will allow suppliers to recover costs if the volume forecast, the consumption forecast, is incorrect.
Okay, and how does this work across EDF's product range?
So we're in quite a fortunate position for two reasons. Firstly, we've got an excellent volume forecasting team and a pricing team, and we've been working diligently since the pandemic to make sure we're adjusting our customers' forecasts in line with our latest kind of sector-based analysis of where we see kind of demand heading, yeah, reflecting that in the way we sort of forecast and contract with customers. We're also one of the largest suppliers to UK business, and we have a very large residential supply business as well, and our scale really helps here. One customer deviating from their forecast won't necessarily have a material impact on our overall position. So I think our scale helps there. And as a result, we offer our fixed price product range without any specific volume tolerance restrictions, so customers can have that flexibility amidst all this uncertainty.
And do customers have to enter into a fixed price contract? Are there other options available to them?
So most energy suppliers, EDF included, offer certain businesses an option to purchase their electricity on a more flexible basis. So here you're signing up to a fixed term, but then you're buying your electricity for various periods in tranches. Now, this type of contracting approach is typically adopted by the largest consuming businesses in the UK. And it does provide businesses, this method of contracting and purchasing does provide businesses with the option to spread that purchasing decision over a longer period of time. But it's important to note there are some consequences of taking that type of contract. Until you've bought all of your tranches of electricity, you won't be able to kind of accurately set budgets and plan for your energy spend. And it's not a product that can be offered to every customer. You've generally got to have a certain size of consumption in order to qualify. I think it's also important to note that for those businesses that haven't yet finalized their contracts for the upcoming winter, whether it's a fixed price contract or a flex contract, it's tough now to avoid your exposure to those high costs. Yes, there's still a couple of months left to go, but before we get into the winter, but those prices are already incredibly high, and flex or fixed going to have to be dealt with. If you are interested in exploring a flexible product for your next contract, please speak to your EDF account manager, and they'll help determine your eligibility and present you with some options.
Thanks, John. And you mentioned businesses that haven't yet finalised their contracts for the upcoming winter. Do we think there's going to be many businesses in that situation? So
our current understanding, and that's informed based on conversations that my team are having with our great network of channel partners, but also some of our own analysis, is that market-wide there are a record number of businesses right now who haven't yet purchased electricity for the upcoming. Now, for various reasons, October is a popular start date for electricity supply contracts. And if we look back into previous years in 2019 and 2020, when electricity prices were relatively low, we saw lots of businesses signing up early to take advantage of those low prices. However, in 2018 and in 2021, when prices were kind of steadily rising in the run-up to October, we saw many businesses delaying their contracting decision, hoping for the market to drop. Ultimately, that never materialized. And 2022 appears to be following a similar trend to 2018 and 2021 at the moment.
So is waiting to the last minute the right approach for these businesses?
It's a very a very risky approach, but I completely see the logic. We're seeing prices right now that are at record high levels, and there's a chance they could fall between now and the end of September. But I think there's a real risk right now, and James is going to go into this in a lot more detail next week on the power market update, so I don't want to steal all of this material, but there's a real risk they could rise even further. Now, I think every business needs to consider how a further increase could impact them versus what they're seeing today. Can they afford it? I think there's also another important consideration as well, and that's the availability of contract offers from suppliers. We've got an amazing team of account managers here at EDF, but there's only so many of them. And we've got our pricing teams who are under huge strain at the moment to serve the kind of market demand that we're seeing. Lots of customers have opted for shorter duration contracts, which requires more and more negotiation periods. So it's incredibly busy already across the teams. And if that all bottlenecks into September, it could just be difficult to get quotes out the door ultimately. I think also when you see these high periods of volatility, suppliers do get quite nervous at times, and that could mean we see temporary suspension of pricing as we saw last September and at certain periods since then.
Thanks, John. And could you explain in maybe a little bit more detail why do suppliers have to suspend that pricing?
Yeah, I can explain how it works here at EDF. So our team of account managers, they'll build their contract offers with the latest view of energy prices and then send those out to businesses for evaluation and signature. If we go back to the calmer times of 2019, when the markets were relatively stable, typically like day to day, you'd see a movement of maybe 20 pence a megawatt hour. And although supply margins have always been quite tight, those movements were sort of broadly acceptable when you consider that price wasn't always increasing. There's some days where that would be decreasing. Now, what we've seen since September is that 20 pence a megawatt hour day on day movement has been replaced with at times a £20 a megawatt hour movement from 1 hour to the next. Huge volatility in the market. And here at EDF, we don't pre-purchase energy for our business customers. If we did that and then the market fell, I'd be left with a lot of energy that is quite expensive to what could be available in the market. So the way it works is once the contract's been signed, we then go to market and buy the corresponding amount of electricity for our customers. Now, the challenge we face is if between the time that the offer is presented to the customer for signature and the time that the contract is returned, the market price has increased, we can't accept that contract. So it creates a real challenge for suppliers sort of, maintaining pricing in market when it's really volatile. Yeah.
And EDF has to go to market to buy electricity for its customers. Why is that if it has nuclear and renewable generation available?
Yeah, you're right. You're right. We are the largest generator of low carbon electricity in the UK, but we don't just hold on to that and sell it to our business customers when they want to come to market and buy. We're a responsible operator and will plan to sell our generation in line with a predefined strategy. So it's not necessarily the case that our strategy for selling our output will align completely with the strategy that our business customers take to purchase energy.
Okay, so is there anything businesses can be doing to help suppliers manage this?
So I think at the moment, if you want access to a broad range of offers from as many suppliers as possible to make sure you're getting your best deal, then I think leaving it until the last minute is probably not a good idea. You'll be buying alongside lots of other people, and it may limit the number of offers that you're able to receive. I think it's important to get signatories lined up as well. The time lag between seeing a contract, evaluating it and signing it needs to be as short as possible. So anything that you can do within your business to, with these high energy costs, we're moving into new levels potentially of internal governance for sign off, budgeting and planning. So making sure you're kind of overcoming those challenges as soon as possible so that you've got the right authority in place to sign the contract as quickly as possible is going to be really, really key. I know it's incredibly difficult for businesses right now. These increases are really significant. Residential consumers are now facing this impact as well. It's very widespread. But my advice is make a plan and stick to it. It's very tempting when you see the market cool off one day to think this is the start of a reverse trend. all of the businesses that we talk to, that we supply to, the vast majority who've signed fixed term contracts since September have looked back on those contracts and felt that they made a good decision. I think it's a way that you're able to kind of gain a significant amount more certainty to allow you to start planning and budgeting is by signing a contract now.
Thank you for covering that for us, John. There's a lot of information to digest there. So I think if maybe we could pick up on some of our audience's Q&A and have a deeper dive into anything you've discussed. We'll just pull up the questions. If you've got any more questions as well, please do drop them into the Q&A box. Here we go. So with prices at these levels, do you anticipate government intervention to support UK businesses?
Yeah, so far the UK government has focused on supporting the most vulnerable domestic users through a package of measures they've announced. And I suspect, based on the latest view of energy cost, I think further support is going to be required over the coming months. We've seen some discussion around wider reform of the energy markets and potential decoupling of the price of electricity from the price of gas. I have a feeling that the events of the last couple of weeks may make that a little bit more complicated to achieve quickly. Ultimately, my hope right now is that the government's able to bring forward support for the most vulnerable domestic consumers as a real priority ahead of this winter.
Yeah, definitely. So what is EDF doing to support its business customers at the moment?
So a couple of things. I'll just give a brief sort of summary of what we're doing. So we're trying to give access to our market experts. James has been providing kind of a regular commentary on what's going on in the market from an energy cost perspective. And we also run quarterly webinars with our non-energy cost team, our CostAct team, to go through the changes that are happening there, because they can oftentimes be as impactful for businesses as the energy cost. We've got our market insight platform where you can check and see what the market's doing one day to the next. And if you're not already signed up to that, speak to your EDF account manager and they'll get you signed up. That's a really helpful resource that you can access. We've published a series of blogs and explainer videos just to try and help everyone understand the kind of complexities of the market. I mentioned earlier our peace of mind product. We've maintained that promise to our customers around that peace of mind product. We think that price certainty is still valued, and whilst some competitors have had to open up their contracts, we've held that promise and given customers price certainty amongst all of this other uncertainty. We're now the largest off-taker of renewable electricity as well in the UK. So we can offer our customers options to support their sort of net zero goals and aspirations by providing access to renewable-backed supplies. As a large energy company in the UK, we're also working closely with government and industry on potential solutions to the current price crisis, working with Ofgem and BEIS on really representing our customer base with those industry bodies to see what more can we be doing right now. And what we're doing kind of within my part of the business is we're looking at we can develop our product range to provide further flexibility and optionality for business customers to help them manage their exposure to the crisis. And hopefully we'll be able to kind of announce and share details on other things we're looking to do in that space soon.
Thanks, John. That's really detailed. I've got another question here. How will the plans for French nationalisation of EDF impact operations in the UK?
So I think the first thing to say is that I've used a positive step for EDF. The French government already held a significant shareholding in the company at around 85%. So increasing the shareholding is an indication of their commitment to the company. As at today, no impact on operations in the UK. It's very much business as usual for us all here. But it's worth noting, all energy companies right now are having to adapt to the energy crisis, and this is the latest step that EDF is taking as we continue to support the UK on its journey to net zero.
Thank you. Next one. Would you only be recommending 12 months in the hope the market will start to recover?
I think it would be very much geared around the specific business and what's important for them right now. You know, I talked earlier about signing longer term can bring down the rate from the energy cost element, potentially to make that a more affordable rate, and it would then allow that business to set their budgets for a slightly longer period. I'm not going to recommend just a general position. I think tune into James's webinar next week, learn about the fundamentals that are driving the price right now, and take your own decision around it. 12 months, 1 month, 6 months, 12 months, 24 months, a range of different options are out there. But I think the right decision for each business will be specific and unique to that business.
Thank you. And you mentioned the government intervening with domestic. Do you think this will happen with business?
So yes, I think in terms of intervention in the business markets right now, I think the government's priority is going to be domestic consumers, especially for this upcoming winter. I think that needs to be the priority right now. So I don't anticipate any immediate changes for business consumers. And again, I mentioned it earlier, I think we've got a situation where maybe decision making across government might take a little bit longer at the moment whilst they're working through their changes.
Okay, thank you. I've got a couple more questions just coming through now. If we enter a recession, do you think it will bring prices down?
I think what's setting the price of electricity in the UK right now is very much the price of gas. You know, gas is being used to generate a lot of the electricity in the UK, in particular on days when the wind's not blowing. So I think it's more the UK electricity pricing is going to be more linked to what's going on with the gas market, and you know, clearly with such a high dependency on Russia traditionally for gas supplies into Europe, the reduced flows of gas from Russia at the moment is what's really impacting the price right now. That's a really good question to maybe ask James as well next week to see what his thoughts are around it. But my view right now is it's look at the gas supply. That's what's driving the power price.
Yeah. And that's a sort of follow-up question. There's a rumour next week when Nord Stream 1 is back online, there could be a big positive, negative drop in prices. Yeah,
and again, James will be much more articulate in explaining how the market is kind of viewing the current situation. Just as a reminder, we've got Nord Stream 1, which is the main pipeline flowing gas from Russia to Germany. Has been running at reduced levels for a period of time now versus its pre-invasion levels, and at the moment it's on outage, so there's no gas flowing on Nord Stream 1 at the moment, and that's due to return to service on the 22nd of July. Question is, when it returns to service, will there be a return to flows that reflects where it was before the outage? Or will it return back to kind of pre-invasion levels, or will it not return at all? So big uncertainties potentially facing us, and we'll learn more on the 22nd of July. There's also been some discussions around a particular part that is required in order to resolve some of the issues with Nord Stream 1 at the moment. It's a bit unclear as to when that part will be delivered, and will allow potentially some of the technical constraints to be relieved as well. So I would suggest there's quite a lot of uncertainty at the moment. I'm not sure how the market is really viewing, reviewing what the market thinks is going to happen. I imagine it's probably hedging its bets somewhere in between full return and no return. But yeah, one for James to delve into in a bit more detail next week for you.
Definitely. Thank you. Does the UK government have any plans to expand the criteria for the energy intensive industry scheme, either to include more sectors or to widen the energy intensity ratio?
Good question. I don't know if there's any sort of active plans to widen eligibility. What I'll do though is, if I could, is take that one away, speak to our policy and regulation team to understand if there's any action in that space, and then we can put that as added part to the webinar when we post it online.
Thanks, John.
Good question.
That's just a few more. Do EDF have plans to release a stepped contract offering, so reflecting the year-on-year decrease in wholesale costs?
We can offer. So just so I understand it, so this would be a contract where you have you pay your higher winter prices and then you pay your lower kind of 2023 prices, but so you're paying a different rate but signing one contract. I mean, we can in effect offer that today. We just offer it as two separate contracts that would be signed kind of sequentially. Generally, what we're finding is that businesses that are opting for short term are really sort of planning and hoping that the forward prices will drop, so they don't necessarily want to expose themselves to high costs and then lock in for that future period. But we can support that if a business wants to pay a different price and just finalize all their contracting at the moment, speak to your EDF account manager. They'll talk that through with you and support you as they can.
Thanks, John. I've got one final question just come through. What about housing associations who purchase bulk energy and then recharge tenants? Will they suffer worse than domestic customers?
Yeah, so the package of support that the government has announced to date has been focused on customers who have a relationship directly with their energy supplier. So customers that are supplied kind of indirectly via a landlord or a housing association haven't been fully covered within the support that the government has announced. But I know that there's a lot of lobbying and discussions around how support can be delivered to those end consumers. I don't have anything detailed to share on that right now because I think those conversations are ongoing around getting that clarity from government. And as soon as we get an update on that, we will share it with our customer base.
Thanks, John. So I think that wraps up our Q&A section. If there were any questions that we missed, or if you'd like to speak to us directly, please do reach out to your account manager or contact us on our Talk Power mailbox, letstalkpower@edfenergy.com. So before we finish, John, any parting words?
No, thanks. I hope the audience has found this session helpful. I know it's incredibly tough times for businesses at the moment. I want all of our business customers and our channel partners to know that we're in this together. We're going to navigate these next couple of months together, and but hopefully you found today helpful, and please feel free to drop me a line if you've got any other questions.
Thanks very much, John, and thanks everyone for joining.
Thank you.
Cheers, bye.